Welcome to Underscore Podcast.
Today we are talking about The Big Short by Michael Lewis.
The question of the day is, if you knew that something catastrophic would happen that would affect a large amount of people, what would you do?
All about that profit, baby. Give me the moolah. No. Honestly, I feel like nobody would believe me. Because there's always somebody who's saying, the end is coming. The economy's gonna crash. There's always somebody saying that, that we're headed towards something bad. So you don't know when to believe them. So I'm just might as well profit from it. Maybe I'll help put that money I make back into the economy to help stimulate it, because that's how economies work. You put money into it and the money moves around in a chain, and it's really cool. That's what I learned in macro, at least.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you say you would profit from it, but then give it back and start that cycle over again. And if you see in the movie, the people they aren't believed and they get yelled at until something really catastrophic does happen. So it does beg the question that even if I wanted to do something good and not bet against the entire economy and all these people's lives, would they actually listen to me? The more I tell them, how long will it take them until it actually happens to help them? Or what could you do that would get people to listen to you, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a thing where people listen what they want to hear, something along those lines.
Confirmation bias of you only pay attention to what you understand is true. You don't listen to other people.
Exactly.
It's the thing my world civ professor always says, feelings trump facts, because people if people feel a certain way, they won't want to believe certain things, and so they'll just ignore it and be my way's right, your way's wrong, and not give any support to it.
That's the psychology behind confirmation bias, that your feelings get in the way, so psychologically you won't listen to them. Other side. Continue.
Yeah, so basically, with people like that, people don't want to be yeah, the economy's going down. No one wants to actually believe that, because no one wants it to happen. So they'd be oh, that can never happen. And they don't really get the reality of it until it's too late.
Yeah, if you saw in the story, they were no one bets against the housing market with the mortgages because it's just so steady, and that's what they believed, and that's kind of what led them astray. A lot of people not listening to the facts and numbers.
Yeah, they say the bank. They say the banks were too big to fail, but then they did. That wasn't good.
There's too many people behind this that the picture is so good. This is the golden age of economy, because so many people are buying this stuff and the banks are getting this money. But that's what makes the book interesting. I think that it takes the position of somebody who knows this is going to happen and is betting against it. The Big Short against the housing market.
This is the type of field I should get into, because I just see the bad in everything, and I'm just man, when there's one scene in the movie where he was talking to the guy. The guy was I don't know what's his name. The bad guy who he called oh God, I'm so bad at remembering characters' names.
Well, it can be a little confusing because they talk about a person's life story in the movie, and then when you try to relate back to the book, you have to see, was it some parts of this character and this character mixed into one?
Yeah,
is it just different?
I think there's something to go on track with the movie that we mentioned, that Mark was played by Steve Carell, which was he was in The Office, and he's just a well-known actor, whether you recognize his name or not. There's so many well-known actors in this movie. That's kind of what makes it entertaining versus trying to remember all the different names of the people in the book.
I only recognized one person in the entire movie, and that was Selena Gomez. Because they literally said, here's Selena Gomez. I'm oh, there's Selena Gomez.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought it was cool how, they addressed that some celebrities were celebrities, the other celebrities were, acting.
In the movie.
In the movie.
It's established that, real-life celebrities exist in this universe. So, what about the celebrities that are playing the characters in the movie?
Yeah.
Do they just have, lookalikes in this universe?
No, they're not celebrities in this universe. They are the characters that they are playing, so they're not celebrities.
But like, do their
Does not-
celebrity counterparts exist in this world? Are there 2 of them?
That's a little off track. I don't know how. Like, I do know how to
It's a
feel that
film
question,
theory.
but if we're gonna like go in that direction, we'll never get back to the book.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like at times they're like super self-aware, but then like they're not gonna be like, oh hey, you're the guy from The Office. Like they're not gonna be.
Yeah,
Imagine-
it's self-aware to the story that like they know this stuff is boring and they gotta keep people in the theater because there's so much math. There's so much math in the book that it kind of. I noted, I think in one of my journals, that the people in the book seem a lot more grounded in numbers than the people in the movie. Because the people in the movie shout that it's gonna be doom and there's all this stuff, but there isn't so much like, these are the numbers, look at the numbers, it doesn't add up and you're gonna fail. It's more like, we just know this, and it's more
they
off
try to
that feel.
explain the concept more than the math, I guess.
Yeah, they try and get you to understand the concepts, which are in like footnotes and all that stuff, which is talking to the reader, which is what they do with talking to the audience. So they kind of took out the like hardcore math. I did like how they showed how Michael Berry interpreted the numbers with all like the increasing of like the numbers speeding up and stuff, because he is supposed to be on the autistic spectrum somewhere. That's why he pays attention to the numbers.
That was good, like, because they did show numbers. It's not like they didn't show numbers at all. It's
Yeah,
just,
I'm not saying they
Yeah.
didn't, but that's why I want to field the question what you guys thought.
yeah, because like you don't have to see every single number, because like obviously in the book they can't quickly scroll through the numbers. They have to like have it all in there, so it could be like a lot to read at once. But in the movie, you could just like scroll past and be like, "Oh, that's a lot. That's bad."
Yeah, we can just see all the zeros, or how like 2 minus 4 equals -2. And like the basic sense of like a movie magic sort of thing, where you can take the sense and you can also hear how much chaos is going around the characters versus like having to read how like other people didn't listen to them, so they got yelled at. It's a different way of getting the characters' hecticness across, and I feel like the hecticness was perpetuated by all the numbers in the book, because you gotta wade through like all this technical stuff. But in the movie, it's more like with the music and the speed, how much faster. It kind of takes 2 sides of how you can get people to realize this is total chaos. What did you think of the poll that we knew the housing market would crash before we read this book, but this whole book leads up to the crash? What did you, or whole movie?
The entire time I was like, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? Because, like, honestly, I didn't know the exact date it happened. I was like, yeah, it happened, like, 07, 08. And then, like, when I was like, this month, I was like, wait, let me rephrase. When it gets to the next time, it's gonna be like, is it gonna happen now? Is, like, everything gonna go to chaos? And then they're like, this is when it should happen. And then, like, they were talking about, like, how they're, like, faking, like, the, you know, I'm so bad at, like, explaining what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, guys. Just skip me.
No, I get what you're trying to say, because you were kind of
CDOs.
faked out a couple of times, because like
Yeah.
when the housing market did crash, but they didn't get their money yet, and you're just
Yeah.
like, what's going
Or,
on?
like, it did crash,
Yeah.
but they were faking it so long, they just like kept selling the same kind of low-level bonds that don't mean anything, the CDOs, and they just kept repackaging them. Like, that was the big bank trying to fake out as long as they could until it actually crashed.
Yeah.
Because remember, they were like, why hasn't it crashed yet? Why hasn't it, like, in the movie you saw that a lot, that, like, there was this hecticness of, like, this has to happen now because I bet so much against it, it has to happen in this window. But it didn't happen until, like, the middle of that window, after, like, they knew it should have gone bad already, but the big companies got their act together enough to fake it long enough until it actually does crash.
Yeah, another like interesting thing about that is like the people who bet against the housing market believed the system would work. There was like a line in the movie that's similar to that when they were talking to one of the banks. They're just like, you believe the system would work when you're betting against the system, because they were just like, oh, this has to be it because this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
but the banks were just so corrupt.
Yeah, the system of banking is that they make money, and that like the people that like that's the whole way that they get money, that they profit off of other people, and then they, as we talked about in class, they took advantage of a certainty of the housing market being rock solid because everybody pays off their housing because usually it's sold in like 30 years and you pay a little, and then you pay off your house. But why it's such a certainty is because of that length of time, and betting, like, using that money to bet against it for so long crashed it exponentially so much faster. What did you think of the slideshows in the movie that showed what's going on in the world? Like, you know, as a time jump, the thing that he talked, like, the professor talked about. Do we remember?
I mean, I
Please
thought,
elaborate.
yeah, it's just like when they go from like, not like scene to scene, but it's just like
Yeah.
when there's just like flashes of
Yeah,
like,
when there's the
things.
narrator and he's like, thousands of people lost their homes and like, this will happen, and that's not what like, you know, that self-awareness, but like, we're not watching the movie anymore, we're seeing like the family's picture slides.
yeah, it's just like, I guess it was just to make it like, the banks are doing this meanwhile people are living their lives
Yeah.
like they should
What
be.
what did you think of that like music video in the middle when he, like the dude asked, "Can I have more money to bet against the housing market?" And there's like the whole like song with the money in it.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Can we talk about the humor in this movie?
Like, cause he's just like racking it in, and it's just like, cause I don't know, it's just like, I guess it's just
Can
like
I
with
bet
big
more
rappers
Yeah.
and stuff. It's just, I guess they talk about money
Yeah,
a lot, so
that
it's
was,
just like,
that was so funny.
cause it's just like you dream about getting that money, but like actually like saying like, oh, I want millions of dollars, $1 billion.
Yeah,
It's like
more money.
it's-
Give me more money to
it's just
bet
like-
against you.
that's why it's just like, oh yeah, you could like rap about it. It's probably not gonna happen, but you could still like in pop culture you could do it. It's just like he's actually doing it in real life.
What was your favorite cameo thing? You know, with the Selena Gomez and the fish of the CDOs, or the terms that they think.
I thought the chef guy was made it the most understandable. How many? There was Selena Gomez.
There was Selena
the girl in
Gomez.
the bathtub. Was there any more?
Yeah.
And there was the fish. I think there was only 3 of them, but there was definitely different ways they used to explain it to you, like having the character talk to you, and I thought that was a good addition versus the book where it's like you read footnotes and the author is talking to you, but in this it's like the characters talk to you, which makes it a little bit more like I'm part of the story, which means I'm invested in this, which means I want them to win, but I don't want to lose. Like, does that make sense? Because that's what they're doing. They're betting against all these people, so I want to be with them versus being one of the thousands of people who lost their homes.
Yeah, there's definitely mixed feelings about it. And like with the cameos, it's just like I like you need a visual representation of this if you're not really financially literate.
Lots
like-
of people aren't.
Yeah,
I'm not.
because you just really need that visual aid.
Yeah, and
Like
I think they needed that for movie appeal, like to
Yeah.
get people to sit through and eat their popcorn. But yeah, I think the fish guy did the best because that was his actual job. He's a famous chef, so he can explain it in terms that make sense because he works in a restaurant. When you have like Selena Gomez talking about it through like people betting against her when she's gambling, it seems sort of like out of place because she's an actor. So that's what actors do. They act in movies. Versus
They
like,
also gamble.
no, I know they do, but like she's not known for gambling.
Are there any celebrity gamblers they could have brought in, do you think?
I mean, there's like famous blackjack people probably.
But do you understand? Like, I think that's why the chef guy did the best because he was in his element and it makes sense for him.
The other one that I liked is there was like this Jenga thing with like
Oh, I like the Jenga.
I
thing.
really
With
like
the
that.
A's and the double B. It made sense because you saw the tower topple.
Yeah, and it just kind of proved the point. It's just like you're taking the things on the bottom and putting it on the top,
Yeah, and that's what
not
the game
stable.
is. And then, like, they all get rid of because they all go to 0, so they all go to dirt.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. And that was like the fourth wall. That was just like they were just explaining
Yeah.
it to each other.
That part's sort of in the book. Like, there's certain aspects of the book that, like, the movie just made more entertaining because they could do that.
That's a wrap.
Good job, guys.